You've found Creep It Cozy, the place where sleep meets the strange. Close your eyes. The stories are waiting. Story number 1. The Library That Only Appears at Midnight. I used to work the overnight shift at a gas station on the edge of a nowhere town in Missouri. Nothing ever happened. Not really, which is exactly why I remember the first night I saw it. The library. Not a library? The library. One that shouldn't exist. It stood across the highway where an old dry cleaner used to be. I glanced up from behind the counter while sipping burnt coffee and saw it through the glass. Tall, stone, with green glowing lamps on either side of the entrance. There was fog rolling around its base like dry ice from a haunted house. I thought I was tired, hallucinating, maybe losing it. But the clock read 12:01 a.m., and the open sign in the window was flickering. I told myself not to go. Of course I did, but by 12:17 the quiet was unbearable. I kept glancing at the place like it might vanish if I blinked too long. So I grabbed my coat, flipped the store sign to "Be back in 5," and crossed the road. The air changed as soon as I stepped off the curb. It got colder, heavier, like I was walking underwater. The door creaked open before I touched it, and a bell chimed from deep inside, like one you'd hear in an old chapel. The inside smelled like dust, pine, and something sweet, like old paper soaked in syrup. And it was silent. Not the kind of silence you get when no one's talking, the kind that presses on your ears. Like something was listening back. The shelves stretched endlessly. The place was so much bigger inside than outside. Cathedral ceilings, endless rows, no checkout desk, no signs, just a reading table near the center, and a man sitting there, turned away from me. He didn't react when I walked in, just sat, motionless, reading something in a leather bound book that looked older than sin. I didn't say a word. I just walked past him. Something about the spines of the books caught my eye. They had dates on them. No titles, just dates. Some in the past, some in the future, some that hadn't even happened yet. And then I found one labeled October 9th, 2027, my birthday. I shouldn't have pulled it down. I know that now. But I did. Inside, there were journal entries, written in handwriting that looked eerily like mine. I should have never opened the book. Now I can't stop hearing it. The scratching inside the walls, the thing with the hollow eyes. The entries grew more frantic the deeper I flipped. Tried to burn it. The book screamed. My dog ran away. The lights don't work anymore. The man at the table watches me through mirrors now. I saw myself in the hallway, but I was smiling, and I shouldn't have been. My reflection is no longer mine. I dropped the book. The sound it made was like a wet slap, not a thud. The man at the table stood up, slowly, deliberately, his back still to me. Then he turned, but his face wasn't a face at all, just a dark smear, like melted candle wax and static. "You've read too far," he said, but it wasn't with his mouth. It was like I heard it inside my teeth. I ran. Full sprint. Shelves blurred past me. I didn't care if I knocked over books or screamed or cried, just needed to get out. I burst through the door, nearly twisting my ankle on the sidewalk. When I turned back to look, the library was gone. Just the old dry cleaner again, boarded up like it had always been. I quit the gas station the next day, moved towns, but that wasn't the end. Every now and then, always around midnight, I see it again. Not always in the same place. Once it was behind a bowling alley. Once it was inside a subway tunnel in Chicago. But it's there, always with that glow, always with the books that shouldn't exist. And every time, there's a new entry in the book with my birthday on it. The last one. He thinks telling the story will protect him. He thinks turning it into a bedtime tale will make it less real. He's wrong. Story number 2 in the Creep It Cozy series, The Doll in the Wall. I inherited the house from an aunt I barely remembered. Technically, it was a duplex, half of a century-old brick building in a small town called Dagger Creek. She passed in her sleep, I guess. No funeral, just a lawyer and a rusty key in an envelope. I was broke and jobless, so free housing didn't seem like a bad deal. Until I started the renovations. The house was freezing. even in July. The central heating wheezed like a dying animal, and half the light switches sparked when it flipped, but it was mine. I moved in the next day with nothing but a mattress and an extension cord. I started tearing down old drywall in the spare bedroom, one sheet at a time, hoping to find mold or rot before it became a bigger problem. Instead, I found a doll. It was inside the wall, sitting in a hollow cavity between two studs, perfectly upright, porcelain, wearing a little faded dress and a locket. Her glass eyes were wide open and aimed right at where my bed would be. I didn't touch it at first. I just stared. There was something else, too. Wedged beneath her legs, a tiny leather-bound book. It looked just like the journal from the library, the one I wasn't supposed to find. I hadn't told anyone about that night. But this book, it was the same size, same smell, that old sweet rotting paper scent. It even had my name etched on the spine in faded gold letters. Not printed, etched, like someone carved it in with a needle. I took the book and left the doll in the wall, thinking maybe it was cursed or radioactive or something. I didn't even open the pages until hours later. The first entry said, "If you're reading this, don't move the doll. If she falls, she wakes up. If she wakes up, she remembers." I slammed the book shut. I tried to ignore it. I stuffed the doll cavity with insulation and sealed the wall with new drywall. Painted over it. Walked away. That night, I heard scratching behind the wall. Not like rats, like fingernails. And then something worse. A faint giggle. I slept in the bathtub with the lights on. The next day, I went to town to get some air and stumbled into an antique shop, the kind that smells like time and secrets. There was an old woman behind the counter, wearing a moth-eaten shawl. I asked if she knew anything about the duplex on Birch Street. She stopped knitting, looked up real slow. "Your aunt was a collector," she said. "Collector of what?" "Things that shouldn't exist. That doll, for example." I froze. "How did you know about the doll?" She just smiled and said, "I warned your aunt not to wake her too." That night, the scratching got louder. At 3:07 a.m., the drywall buckled. A hand punched through from the inside. Tiny, pale porcelain fingers cracked and stained. I ran, screaming, into the street barefoot. Called the police. They found nothing. No doll, no book, just a shallow space in the wall filled with loose hair and bite marks in the wood. I stayed at a motel for 3 nights. When I came back, my bedroom mirror had writing on it. "She likes new friends." And under it, written in sharp red, "The library is open." I don't live there anymore. The house is for sale, or will be if I ever find a buyer who doesn't feel sick the moment they step inside. But I still have the book. It updates itself sometimes, like a diary I never wrote. The last entry? "She's in the motel now. Check the wall behind the headboard." Story number 3. Voice message from my dead brother. My brother Caleb died 6 months ago. Car crash in Oregon. Driver fell asleep at the wheel. They said it was instant. No suffering. No chance. I didn't cry. Not at first. We hadn't spoken in over a year, and not for lack of trying. He just distanced himself. Said he was seeing things and didn't want to drag me into it. I thought he meant drugs, or maybe psychosis. Now I think it was something else. The first voicemail came on a Tuesday at 3:33 a.m. I woke up to the alert on my phone. New message from Caleb. At first I thought it was a cruel joke, or maybe an old message that glitched through the system. But the timestamp was current. When I played it, the audio was distorted, like it had been recorded underwater. I could barely make out a voice, but I knew it was his. "They found me. Don't open the book. The girl in the mirror isn't your niece." The message cut out with a sound like static screaming, then silence. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. I tried to call the number back. Disconnected. Next morning, I went to voicemail settings to retrieve the original audio. Gone. Deleted. No backup. I checked my call log. There was no call at 3:33. Just a new contact saved in my phone. The library. I know what you're thinking. I hadn't told anyone about the other stories. Not my family. Not my therapist. But somehow, they all connected. The book. The mirror. Even the girl. My niece had started talking to someone in the mirror a week after Caleb's death. We'd all thought it was grief, imagination. Kids are weird like that, until I noticed her reflection smiling when she wasn't. 3 nights later, another voicemail, this time at 1:11 a.m. They listened through the lights. The hallway isn't safe. Your house is built over the old stacks. Burn it before they use the doll again. Don't let her finish the song. In the background, faint humming. A child's voice, singing something old and slow in reverse. Ring around the rosy, ashes, ashes. Then the line snapped. I drove to the cemetery the next day and dug up his grave. I'm not proud of it. I just had to know. But there was no coffin inside, just a leather-bound book, identical to the others, with his name etched into the cover. No dirt, no insects, just the book, sitting on cracked wood like it had been placed there minutes ago. I took it home. The last page had a sentence scribbled over and over in red ink. You're already dead too. You're already dead too. You're already... The lights in my house went out. Every bulb shattered at once, and then the mirror in the hallway lit up. Not from outside, from inside. I haven't checked my phone since. I hear it vibrating in the drawer where I locked it. The screen keeps lighting up. The library keeps calling. And every time it does, I swear I hear my brother's voice, closer now, whispering my name from the other side of the mirror. Story number 4, where parental instincts meet supernatural dread. The night I switched rooms with my daughter. My daughter, Lily, is 6, bright, sweet, and obsessed with shadow puppets. Every night before bed, we'd do little finger animals on the wall with the flashlight. It was our thing. That's why, when she said she didn't want to sleep in her room anymore, I took it seriously. At first, I thought she meant the usual childhood stuff. Bad dreams, growing pains, maybe a phase. But she said something strange. The other girl keeps watching me from under the bed. I asked what she meant. She said the girl had black hair and no face, and that she liked to sing when Lily was almost asleep. I asked if the girl had ever talked to her. Lily nodded. She said her name is Ash, and she wants to switch. That night, I swapped rooms with her. I wasn't scared. I was just tired. The kind of tired where anything seems explainable. I brought my pillow into her room, tucked her into mine, and told her everything would be fine. She asked me to lock the door from the inside. I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. The room was colder than I expected. No vent issues, just cold. The walls were covered in faint little handprints, barely visible in daylight, but now clear under the moonlight from the window. Some looked like they'd been drawn in condensation. Others, not so much. I figured it was Lily playing during the day, maybe using lotion or something. I laid down, turned off the light, and waited. It didn't take long. At exactly 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of humming. Not a tune I recognized. Just a strange, almost metallic lullaby, like a music box winding down. It was coming from under the bed. I didn't move, just stared at the ceiling. The humming stopped. Then I heard a voice whisper, "You're not her," followed by something brushing the underside of the mattress. Light, delicate, like fingers. Then silence. Then the sound of laughter. Not a child's, but something older, pretending to sound like one. I turned on the flashlight. Nothing there. I checked under the bed, just dust and old books. One of them caught my eye. Leather bound. No title. You already know where this is going. I opened it. Inside was a list, written in looping cursive. Swapped. Room 1, Caleb room. 2, Marion room. 3, Lily. Pending room 4. You? That's when I felt something crawl into bed behind me. The air turned sharp, heavy. My arms wouldn't move. And then a voice, right next to my ear. She said yes. I blacked out. When I woke up, the sun was up. Everything seemed normal. Except Lily. Wasn't Lily. She had her smile, her voice, her habits. But something behind her eyes felt hollow, like she was wearing my daughter as a mask. She hugged me tight that morning and whispered, "You sleep in here again tonight, Daddy. We can finish the switch." I'm writing this from a hotel an hour away. I left that morning and never went back. The book came with me. I didn't mean to take it. It was just in my backpack. It updates itself like the others. Today's entry, the switch is complete, and the last line, she's going to visit your niece next. The girl in the mirror told her how to get there. Let's close out Creep It Cozy, Volume 1 with something unforgettable. Story number 3, My Grandfather's Cabin. My grandfather died last year and left me his cabin in the Ozarks. It wasn't much, just 4 rooms, a fireplace, and wood so thick they choke out the stars. I remembered it from childhood, barely. A few summer trips, fishing, ghost stories by lantern light. But the one thing I never forgot were the rules. They were carved into the doorframe in shaky block letters, always there, even back when I was a kid. Cabin rules. Rule 1, lock the door before sunset. Rule 2, never open the trapdoor in the pantry. Rule 3, do not use the mirror after dark. Rule 4, burn anything you find buried. Rule 5, if you hear humming, hide in the fireplace. Rule 6, leave by the 7th night. I used to think he was just eccentric, maybe a little crazy from too much isolation. But when I came back as an adult, alone, newly divorced, with nothing to lose, I started to understand. He wasn't scared. He was protecting something, or maybe someone. The first night was fine, cold, quiet. The stars outnumbered the thoughts in my head. The second night, I heard footsteps on the roof, soft like bare feet. On the third night, I woke up to humming outside the pantry. On the fourth night, I saw a girl standing at the tree line, black hair, no face, watching. On the fifth night, I checked the trapdoor. It was nailed shut from the inside. By the sixth night, I was ready to leave early. Screw the rules. But the car battery was dead, and my phone wouldn't turn on. That was when I saw the book on the nightstand, leather-bound, gold-etched. Only this time it didn't have my name on it. It had Caleb's, and the first page was addressed to me. It's your turn now. I flipped to the final entry. The handwriting was frantic, smeared. They move through the books, through the mirrors, through the promises people break. The girl is just the voice. The others, they're behind her. The library is a doorway. The doll is an anchor, and the switch is almost complete. Burn the cabin. Break the chain. That night, I heard the trapdoor open on its own. The nails flew out one by one, clattering like teeth on the floor, and then something began climbing out. Slow, deliberate, scraping bone against wood. I followed the rules. I locked the door. I hid in the fireplace. And when I heard whispering in a voice that sounded like my niece, like Lily, I didn't answer. At dawn, I set the whole cabin on fire, poured gas across the threshold, lit a match. As the flames reached the roof, I heard screaming from inside. Not human screaming, not animal. It was every voice from every story I've told you. At once, like they'd all been trapped there, waiting to be remembered. I walked 3 miles to a ranger station, never looked back. But that night, in the motel, there was a knock at the door. A little girl's voice said, "You forgot Rule 7. I opened the book again. Someone had etched in a final line. 7. Don't tell the stories. Thanks for spending the night with Creep It Cozy. Like, comment, and subscribe before the library adds your name to the next book.